Well, good evening, everyone. I am Joe DeHoyos, the host of Beyond the Woodline, and this has been quite the chore to get you guys on the show, man. You know,
It sure has.
yeah, but you know what, we got it done, and I'm glad that we were able to, get it all straightened out, squared away, and
Glad to be here. Thanks for
yeah,
having
man,
us.
yeah. Thanks for joining, man.
Nice to be here.
Yeah.
Mm.
So my guests are Calvin and Joanna, and you guys are part of or are the Coldspotters, right?
That's correct.
Um, and you have more team members?
Yes, we do. We have two other core members, and right now one of them is working an evening shift, so he couldn't be with us. And Marlene, she's had one of those rare weekends, and so we excused her from the podcast to rest up. Yeah, she had a Murphy's Law kind of weekend.
Okay, yeah. Well, I had one of those days of today, so I understand that. Yeah. So real quick, man, tell me a little bit about yourself, Calvin, if you don't mind going first, and what got you into the paranormal?
Absolutely. I started the Coldspotters in 2012, and preceding that, my interest in the paranormal. It dates back to when I was a kid. My mom was or is a bit of a psychic, clairvoyant. She's got a lot of clairvoyant abilities, and growing up, I would watch her and her friends do all sorts of crazy things, ranging from seances to table tipping. And so it's always just been kind of there for me to witness. And I had my own experiences. The one that really tipped the scales that got me into the paranormal was my infamous Shadow Man experience when I was about 8 years old. And that was what really kind of put me on the path to want to kind of learn what's out there, whatever it is that's out there. Hopefully we can find some answers. But the Shadow Man experience, that was crazy stuff. If you want me to deep dive into that a little bit, I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, we can talk about that real quick. But let's get to Joanna and let's see what got her involved and how she got inducted into the world of paranormal.
I've always loved the paranormal for as far back as I can remember. As a kid, it's always intrigued me. And then the Ghostbusters movie came out. I think I was, 9 or 10. And that just, set it in the stone. And I've loved it ever since. And through them coming to do an investigation at my house about 7 or 8 years ago. So, and then I just started going out to events with them and eventually became a member just earlier this year, a core group member. So it's been really great to be involved in all of this. I just love it all.
Yeah, I like that story. Did they actually came to your house to do an investigation?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then I didn't know, you see the shows and stuff, right? And
right.
You're like, oh, wow, these people actually do it in real life, And so my sister, her boyfriend at the time happened to work with Marlene's ex-husband. And so, I got a business card. They came over and yeah, I just, started hanging out at their group events and stuff and eventually was asked to become a member myself. So it's very exciting.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Calvin, let's go back to you about your Shadow Man that you saw.
Sure. Yeah. So I was 8 years old, and this would have been in around the mid 70s. One night I was laying in bed, and I can't remember exactly what time it was. Some of the details I feel are a little bit hazy, but the gist of it is I started hearing these footsteps coming down the hallway, and we had this kind of long hallway leading past the bedrooms, and I would hear this sort of slow shuffling kind of footsteps. And getting closer but never arriving kind of thing. I didn't pay too much attention to it because it could have been anything, the dog or whatever. And I remember asking my parents about it, and my dad said that it was just pockets of air in the furnace pipes or something. And I don't know, I guess that sounded feasible to me when I was 8 years old, but they kind of persisted, and then it stopped, and then it started up again. And then one night I was laying there in bed, and the footsteps were coming, and then they actually got closer. And then I saw this dark figure in my bedroom door, but it looked like a shadow, but it looked very dimensional. Like it had sides. It was just, it was crazy. And I just went into complete paralysis. I couldn't move. I was trying to yell for my parents, and nothing was happening. I passed out or something from fright. And when I woke up the next day, it was that fear was still with me. And it happened one more time after that, except it came directly into my room and kind of walked around my bed and up to where I was laying down. And I felt that paralysis again, but then I don't know, something kind of snapped and I was able to jump off the bed and I ran kind of right by this thing. And the only thing I can equate it to that kind of cold is, when you're in the supermarket and you go into the freezer section and open up one of those doors and you get that blast of cold air. That's what it kind of felt like. Oh. And I went screaming down the hallway to my parents' door and kicked the door open. And my poor dad, who probably his heart is probably still beating to this day from it. He went from laying down to standing up at about the speed of light. And he thought somebody had broken into the house, but it wasn't. And about 10 years later, 7 or maybe 9, 10 years later, I was a teenager, and I heard the exact same footsteps, and it just put this chill right up my spine. And I'm laying there waiting for this shadow thing to enter my room again, but it didn't happen that time. So it was those 2 instances when I was 8 years old. And everything else after that, my friends and I would always sort of horse around with seances and whatnot and try to scare each other. But that was the catalyst that kind of sent me down this road.
And what about you, Joanna? What was what got you, or your first validation that there was something out there?
I had never seen anything. I always just wanted to believe. And unfortunately, we had a lot of death in our family, from a young age. A couple of my uncles unfortunately passed away when I was, 10 and 11. And it's just, I always wondered what was beyond. Like, I am Catholic, I do believe in God. So there's, you always have that hope that, there is that heaven and but do the spirits come back? Is there, are there things out there, even like aliens and stuff like that, like I believe in all of that stuff. And it was more so wanting to figure it out, wanting to see for myself with my own eyes, if any of that was real, if I could find it, if I could capture it, if I could see it. That's what, has always kind of driven me to do this. And but yeah, I didn't really have any experiences myself growing up. I just was always intrigued by it. It wasn't until I had my daughter, she's 14 now, when she started experiencing things at a young age. I think she was about 3 or 4 years old, and I was in my bedroom, and she was playing in her room, and she came into my bedroom and she's like, "Mommy, I don't like the old man staring at me." And so I was like, okay, like, it was a little bit creepy, but I went into her room. Of course, I didn't see anything, but that's when it started. As soon as she could talk, she always saw things. And that really kind of pushed me more so into wanting to see myself if there was things out there, things I could find and see for myself. And fortunately met the Coldspotters, and, I've been lucky to be able to go out and investigate and try and, find the truth.
Yeah. I love that, trying to find the truth, trying to find answers,
Mm-hmm.
It's, not just for yourself, and I guess a lot of it is for yourself, but also, for the community and everyone else who has these experiences,
Exactly.
I think it's very important. So when did you actually come up with the name Coldspotters, and when did you form the group?
I came up with the name Coldspotters back in the 80s. And the first sort of small incarnation of the group was in 1988. And how I came up with the name was I was reading the book, The Amityville Horror, and the original book. And at the end of the book, more in the epilogue section, there's a little bit of a explanation on some of the phenomena that the family had been experiencing in the house, and one of them was cold spots. And they kind of go into a little bit of a thing on that, and I don't know, it just kind of resonated with me, and so I came up with that name. And the friend of mine that I was investigating with, and we didn't really do a lot back then, but except lurk around in graveyards. But he didn't like the name, and so he said that's the stupidest name he'd ever heard. And so I don't know. I felt a little self-conscious about it, so I didn't mention it again for years. And then in 2012, when I had the opportunity to form my own team, and I mentioned it to one of our former core members, and she thought it was absolutely fantastic. And so, so from there it blossomed. The seed of it, though, was planted back in the 80s. Although it didn't really come to fruition probably until 2012.
Yeah, man. When I saw the name, I was like, "Oh man, this is a really cool name. I like it." You know, you should have stuck with that thing. You should have stuck with it. It's a really cool name. I like it. Man. Yeah. So where all have you guys been as far as like your investigations? Do you just residential? Do you do all the typical like I don't know where you're at, where people go to check out? Like here in America, you know, we got places everywhere that gets rented out, and you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it is limited here, especially where we live, because I think the west coast of Canada was probably one of the last places that was colonized, I think, on the planet. So it is probably one of the newest places. So it is very limited on places you can go in regards to where you can like rent old, you know, historic buildings and whatnot. But we do have a pretty good selection. Every year we do a road trip, and we pick a place and we go. We've been to San Francisco, and we did the nighttime tour of Alcatraz, and nice. And I don't know if you've heard of Port Townsend. It's like in Puget Sound. Yeah, we've been there, and that place is like a paranormal playground. Just this great old like town, and they've got Manresa Castle, which is I think usually listed in somewhere in the top 10 haunted places in the United States. Fort Worden, and you can rent the old colonel and general's houses in there, and we did that a few times. And there's an old morgue, this old underground morgue there that's attached to it, and we've been in there many times, and it's just been absolutely amazing. The one place that we have been investigating for several years now, and over the past year, we've had this sort of unprecedented access to it. It's this old mansion in Vancouver called Overland Mansion. And it was built somewhere around the turn of the century. And it passed through a few different residential, like the guy that built it. And then I think somebody else lived there. And then it got passed over into, became like a Catholic school run by nuns. And it was I think a tuberculosis hospital at one point. And now they film movies there. The original It, Stephen King's It from 1990. A lot of it was filmed in this. So it's always fantastic. We're always watching that movie and then, you know, sectioning out the spots that are inside this mansion. So it feels like a second home to us. But we when COVID hit and the movie industry kind of, you know, got put on back burner, there wasn't a lot of stuff happening there. And so the managers of the mansion were happy to just give it to us every weekend. Almost.
Nice.
And we have gotten probably some of the best evidence that we've ever gotten, and that'd be something that maybe in a future show we could compile a bunch of evidence, and that would be great, because I'm sure a lot of people would find it interesting. But that probably is the number one place. We do residentials as well, although that has been very much backburnered since COVID started. I'm sure we'll resume that in due time. We've done a couple here and there over the past 18 months, but you know, historic buildings and residential probably are two big things.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite spot?
Yeah, I would say Overland Mansion is probably the favorite, and the reason why is because the place just never disappoints. You know, I would say probably 2 or 3 times, and we always stay overnight, and we just we're there for like, you know, a good 12-13 hours at a crack. Maybe 2 or 3 times in the 20 times or so that we've been there, where it was quiet and nothing happened. But for the most part, it is banging on walls, and you could hear footsteps and everything. And it got, I think it was in 2019 when we were there, it was so noisy one night that we actually stopped the investigation because we thought that somebody had sneaked into the house. And I mean, it's like a 10,000 square foot house on multi levels. It's very massive, and it's very maze like with different stairways and hallways going everywhere. So we thought someone had sneaked into the house and was kind of messing with us. And we got all the lights on and we searched the place, and of course nobody's there. And then, we kill the lights and get the cameras rolling again. And then it was bang, bang. And we capturing some disembodied voices. This big throat clearing thing happened at one point. And yeah, absolutely insane. So, the place never disappoints. So that right now is our favorite place. There is another place further out in the valley called Kent Cemetery. And it's an abandoned cemetery that hasn't been used probably since the 1940s, but the municipality still mows the lawn and everything. It's on the side of a hill, which is kind of odd for a cemetery. I've never seen that before. And it looks like, even at its visual, it looks like one of those old graveyards that would be haunted, old wrought wire, okay. Fences leaning and weather-worn headstones and whatnot. So it's creepy just to look at, but then you spend some time there, and we've been there like half the night. And not only do you capture the evidence, but you can actually feel it, like, inside of you. It's kind of hard to explain. We had a core member that
it's almost like an uneasiness when you're there.
Yeah. We had a core member who couldn't spend much more than about 20 minutes in there because the feeling just overwhelmed her, and she'd have to go and like sit outside the graveyard. Yeah.
We actually have on our Facebook group, we do have a small clip. We were there. Was it earlier this year?
Mm-hmm.
And just filming actually for another channel that Calvin has. He's a horror fanatic, so we were there just kind of playing around, and we just caught something. It looked like a head going past the screen, and we didn't see it in person. And then we kind of went back and looked at our camera to make sure, we got the right clip that we wanted. We noticed it, and we were like, geez, like, it was very uneasy, like, just to see that going across the screen. And it just looked like maybe like the size of I don't know, like a 6 or 7 year old child, all black and just running past the screen.
Can you read the question on the screen?
Facebook user asks, do the guests have any ideas as to the identities of the spirits haunting the mansion? We do, actually. We've determined, and we've actually had verification from other sightings, that there is the spirit of a young girl that lives there. And what happened was a couple of years ago, prior to one of our investigations in 2019, we always do a little bit of a follow-up with the management of the place, because they have like housekeeping staff that have to go in there after movie productions are done, and they have handymen that go in there just to do general repairs. So we'll usually do a little pre-investigation chat with them. So they were telling us that a housekeeper was in there, and she was vacuuming or something in one of the rooms, and a little girl walked by her and then vanished into the wall. And she absolutely freaked, and she left, and she refused to go back. A little while later, I don't know if it was a few months later or what, but after some time had passed, they had a handyman in there, and this was during the daytime, in the summer, daylight, sunny. And he was doing some work on the stairwell. There's this grand kind of a staircase in the center of the house, which is really amazing. And he was there, and he was doing some work on the banister, and he looked up and saw this little girl kind of peeking through the banisters at him. And he didn't think anything of it. And he finished his work, and when he was leaving, he mentioned to the office, hey, did somebody bring their kid to work? Let him kind of run around in the mansion. Right. And they said, oh, you met the ghost. And so I don't know how he felt about that after learning that information. But we have not seen her. I've been in that place by myself many times. I've spent the night there by myself with the hopes, because generally when these kind of sightings happen, it's usually when someone is by themselves. So to that end, I've spent many hours and nights in that place, just hoping for some type of sighting. But it's eluded me so far.
We do bring some toys, for her. We have a doll and a bear and some other stuff, and we set up our some of our devices, our K2 or the REM pod, and it does go off around the doll. We invite her to play with the toys, and And I always try to ask, do you like the toys? Is there something you'd like us to bring for you? Just to see if we can get any kind of, response or activity.
Right.
Because we do know that there is a little girl there.
Yeah,
and there also is confirmed the butler as well.
Oh.
He has a presence in the mansion as well.
Yeah. And we believe that we have captured the little girl on EVP, but sometimes it's very difficult to discern age on EVPs when it's not like a class A.
Right.
Have they ever gotten a psychic's impression of the mansion? Actually, no, we have not. We just haven't had the opportunity yet. We actually know quite a few psychic mediums, and we've tried to arrange it a few times in the past, but it just hasn't happened yet. But I'm sure it will. Yeah.
Well, Joanne, do you have any favorite spots you like going to?
For me, because I am, sort of newer into the group, I haven't gotten to experience as many, places as, the rest of the group. But I mean, definitely we have Riverview Hospital out here. Is an old closed off. It used to be kind of, I don't know if it's the right way to say it, almost like a mental institution. Hospital. Yeah. So there's a lot of history there, but just going out and visiting the grounds and just, and seeing like how many souls would have passed through there and are still there. It's just a very surreal building. It's just beautiful. And unfortunately you cannot go in there to investigate, but it's one of, my favorite places to kind of go and just kind of be around. There's just, the energy there. You can just kind of feel it in the air almost like, it's just a really beautiful place to be in. And it is a very sad place as well. But I do also like just visiting cemeteries. I just find them very peaceful. And, especially at night, when it's quiet out in the world and just going there and being quiet and listening and having my recorder out and just seeing if you can capture anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot of places I would love to go to, and hopefully with COVID, hopefully ending and things opening up, we can definitely go out and explore more areas.
Yeah, there's a place that it was pretty much a one-off up in the interior of British Columbia, a little town called Revelstoke. And they've got this ghost town up there called Three Valley Gap, and the has a very storied sort of haunted kind of history and reputation as that. And it's got this kind of beautiful seasonal resort hotel. And one of our team members was passing through there, and just stopped in and just asked, hey, because they usually shut down for the winter and then they open in the spring. Would you welcome having a paranormal group come up and do an investigation? And just oddly enough, they said yes, and they gave us pretty much the run of the place. It was the weekend before they opened for the season. And they had this big roundhouse with all of these train cars that they had brought in from different parts of North America down in the States. And some of them had haunted history, all these old rail cars. And we spent 4 or 3 days up there. And this was about 6 years ago. And it was absolutely fantastic. We caught amazing evidence. We had physical contact. Yeah. And then we tried to get in after that. And I'm not sure if something happened after we left, but they were like, nope, no more paranormal groups, please. Okay. so we counted ourselves lucky. Yeah.
That's interesting. Maybe the activity picked up or said, nah, we're not doing this anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you, as far as the evidence goes, what's some of your best evidence? And Joanna, if you want to go first, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely for me, it's on my my recorder catching the the EVPs, and just things with my own eyes. But for sure, the EVPs, the disembodied voices, and it for sure has been at the Overland Mansion, capturing just different things there. And there is a cemetery out here locally to where I live, and I've caught things there as well, voices saying hello. And I do have family, and Calvin actually has family as well at the same cemetery. And on my recorder, I have caught some, like I said, hellos. And it happened to be my daughter had come out at that time, and she'd heard it in real life. Like, she was like, "Oh, what was that?" And none of us heard it. And then when I listened back to my recorder, there was a hello on there. And also, not the last time, but the time before, we were at Overland Mansion. I've only been there, I'd say maybe 6 or 7 times since joining the group, but it had been pretty quiet in the beginning, and then the last few times there was a lot of activity. And I actually saw it, through this glass window, like a shadow of a head walking past. And to experience that with your own eyes, like, to me, that's spectacular, because sometimes the evidence, you don't know if you can trust things or you can debunk it or whatever, but seeing things with my own eyes, that's where, I find, for myself to really make me believe. And I find that a great experience to have. So.
Okay. What about you, Calvin? What's some of your best evidence?
Okay, so apart from Overland, there is this massive cemetery. It's the first cemetery in Vancouver, called Mountain View. And we started going there and doing some evening ghost walks, public events. And what I found out was this place was an absolute hotspot for Class A EVPs. And even when you're not investigating or you have a session going, like if you walk into the cemetery, you have a camera going, because chances are you'll capture something. And I probably got a good half a dozen Class A EVPs from the cemetery, just answering questions. There we found this old, very monument-esque headstone of this old army general, and somebody left a little stuffed teddy bear at the base of it. And I don't know if it was like a family member. This guy died about 85, 90 years ago. And so I used to go there because it just felt very energetic, and I loved sitting there. And I would get my recorder going and talk to this guy. And I was getting, like so many constant replies. It was absolutely incredible. Like the little teddy bear fell over once, and I had the recorder going, and I picked it up and propped it back. And I said, "Hey, I put your teddy bear back." And the response on the recorder was, "Thank you." I mean, it was very, very low. You could hear it, right? But it was definitely there, and lots of hellos. And the one that is the most, I'd say the most audible, where didn't have to, sometimes you got to filter out some background noise just so you can kind of make out what it's saying, was we were having an event, and there had to have been about, I don't know, probably 20 people standing around. And I've got my camera going, and I'm panning around, and we're sectioning off who's going to go with who. And okay, you and you and you're going to go with Aaron, and you and you and you with Marlene. And somebody said, "Hey, you got a big team." And then you hear this very tinny voice, very kind of ethereal, saying, "And me." And I listened to that over and over and over and over, and I was just like absolutely crazy. So that's one of the, probably, I'd say it's probably the highest level Class A EVP that I've ever captured. Lots at Overland Mansion. We've had doors slam open, and we've said, "Hey, did you open that door?" And we would get a yes on the recorder. So it's I've got a pretty decent library full of all of these EVPs. Do have a few of them posted on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
And because that is something that that I'm sure that the listeners would find interesting to listen to, and it is the original Vancouver Coldspotters on YouTube.
Okay.
And I'm just bringing it up here just to make sure that there they are. Door slam. We had a door slam in Fort Worden. The And Me EVP. And then we had one, and it was at an old heritage house in the valley. And we weren't even in the having an EVP session at the moment. We're kind of setting up, and I was going to kill the lights, and you can hear me say, "Here comes the night." And then you hear this EVP saying, "Well, shit."
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
It's funny when you hear that because you hear it all the time where EVPs, cuss. Just
yeah.
some get pretty vulgar.
Yeah, so
Um,
far I don't think we've heard anything over the top, but we've had a few dams and a few the minor expletives tossed at
right.
us.
Yeah.
But we've never been threatened or told
Yeah.
to F off or anything like that, which is
Try to be
nice.
very respectful when we're in places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to like being physically touched, have both you guys been physically touched?
I've never personally been touched. We
Okay.
have a team member, Marlene, and she seems to be a magnet for the grabbers.
Okay.
Yeah, she's had her hair pulled, she's had her butt slapped,
Oh.
and it's happened at multiple locations, multiple times. So
I
it's
was
kind of
at Overland Mansion. The ladies' bathroom seems to have some sort of activity in there. Most of the team members don't really feel comfortable using it. I always go in there. There's 2 stalls, and I was on the one on the left, and I was sitting down, and I felt something brushed up against the side of my leg.
Mhm.
So that was a little bit
yeah,
alarming, being
yeah.
Yeah.
a compromised position in the bathroom. But
I
Yeah.
think the most without feeling it when it happened, the most contact that I've experienced was out at Kent Cemetery. And again, this place can be pretty heavy for some people and probably feel quite negative. 2 or 3 times after visits out there, I would awake the next morning with these odd looking kind of claw marks on my back in such a way that I would have had to have been a very accomplished contortionist to have made,
Right.
just the way the angles of them were. And those have only happened after visits to Kent Cemetery.
Hmm. Okay. That's interesting. The only time I was ever touched, it was early in the morning. I was getting ready for work, or I just got up. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, contemplating my life decisions. And I felt somebody just like jab me in the ribs.
Ooh,
Yeah, just like get your ass up. And it made me jump. Because you've been poked in the ribs. Or poked somebody else in the ribs, and you see them jump, especially when they're ticklish. And that's
yeah.
exactly what it was. It made me kind of like go like that to the side. And, I was the only one in the room at the time. So, yeah. But
Wonder what that was supposed to mean, right? A
I
little
don't
kind
know.
of
I kind of think that
yeah.
was my dad. I talk about that a
Hmm.
lot on my other shows. That my dad was always around for quite a while,
Yeah,
and um, especially from 2017 to about 2019, he was constantly around, and I was going through a rough patch, and
hmm.
I think he was just there, kind of keeping an eye on me, watching out for me, and letting me know everything was
That's
gonna be
good.
okay. And once I got out of that funk, I think he left.
Uh,
So I haven't felt him around in it's like over 2 years since he left.
that's nice that
But
he see you. Yeah, I saw you through the hard times a bit. Yeah.
yeah, like my kids have been tapped on the shoulder.
Hmm.
This is the house, like I said, where I used to live at. We're all tapped on the shoulder. My daughter was actually poked in the ribs too one time, and she turned around to look at me, and she thought it was me, but she realized I was way too far to do that.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that was a crazy house, yeah, but nothing was I would say evil or had ill intent.
Hmm.
I think it was all out of mischievous stuff that was going on there. But
Exactly. I think it's pretty rare that I've felt anything that could be construed as evil or
yeah.
malicious. Yeah.
Have Have you guys ever been scared?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have.
Yes.
In my own house, I have activity, and I woke up one night, probably almost 3 in the morning, with very heavy breathing in my ear,
Ooh,
and that scared me. I was,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
a little
I mean,
unnerved.
the one thing that happens when you start investigating the paranormal. I mean, it's very very situations can be scary at first, especially when you don't have any familiarity with what could happen. And one of our first experiences was out at Kent Cemetery, and it was quite terrifying. And after you do it for a while and you learn how to debunk and kind of that certain noises are caused by certain things, and um, that fear kind of gets replaced by exhilaration. So
Mhm.
it's like when you go to these places, you want something to happen, right? You want to be sort of wowed, and
yeah.
So the fear kind of leaves you, and you're excited. You want to get to work and have something kind of happen. So
yeah. And see, and that's the same way I am with with the whole Bigfoot thing. I don't know about if you know that, Joanna, but this is what I do with the Bigfoot. And then I kind of started getting out, branching more into the paranormal and UFO and a bunch of other stuff. I've had a guy on here with remote viewing. I had psychic mediums on here. I did a show on conspiracy theories. Just I try to branch out as much as I can, and which is where I got the name Beyond the Woodline. Looking out beyond the woodline because I'm a Bigfoot researcher, right?
Exactly.
So, if I see red eye shine, I hear a branch breaking, I gotta go find out what the hell did it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. If I see lights in the sky, holy cow! I wish I could fly and find out what the hell is going on. But
yeah, it's the UFO thing. It's really interesting. The Bigfoot aspect. I mean, I wish that I could have some sort of at least vague encounter or sighting just to kind of convince myself a little bit more. I mean, I do believe in Bigfoot, but wow, he is one smart creature if he does exist. Managing to kind of evade. There's some like we were mentioning in the pre-show, a lot of areas in the Eastern Valley that have a lot. It's like a huge sort of Bigfoot hotspot areas. And it actually made the morning news, I think 5 or 6 years ago. Some guy was driving down a logging road, and this big, hairy, 8-foot tall creature dashed across the road, and he swerved and almost hit this thing. And he reported it to the police, and then somebody else saw something very similar, and it actually made the morning news out here. Who knows what it was, but the UFO aspect, a lot of hot spots out here. And yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, we have obviously a lot of air traffic above us because where we are, there's right over the city is how the planes have to go to land at the airport. But I've been outside at night, and I tried to take a video of this one night because I sat there and stared at this thing, and it was just a light. Just thought it was a star. Who knows? And it just kept on going back and forth in the night sky. And I went in and grabbed my phone, and I'm trying to hold it steady. And of course, it's all grainy, right, when you try to zoom in. But I stood there for like a good 10 minutes watching this thing kind of moving back and forth in the night sky. And then, boom, it was just, you blink and it's gone kind of thing.
Right.
So,
so here lately, I've been paying more attention to what especially at night. I was outside of Houston, about maybe an hour out north of Houston, at a friend's house. And we walked outside his house. I was getting ready to leave, and we see these two lights coming at each other like this. I'm like, no, what the hell is that? And I'm checking them out, and then they got close like this, and then it just went like in circles, and then they took off in opposite directions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That was just the weirdest thing. I was trying to record it with my phone, but your phones aren't designed to record at night like that.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's really tough. And if those were like some sort of jet fighters doing maneuvers, well, you'd hear them a mile away.
Yeah, and I mean, and the circle was a perfect circle. They made maybe 3 or 4 little loops, and then they just went their opposite direction again.
Yeah, no, that's.
And it was such a tight circle,
Yeah, so as soon as the weather brightens up, we did create our new Coldspotters sightings group, specific to ufology and cryptozoology. So when the weather gets nicer, we're gonna get an event going out further east in the valley and out to one of the hot spots and see if we can see anything.
I believe I saw probably 8 or 9 years ago a UFO. I was camping, so further out, into the valley, not as much light pollution. And my sisters came up to visit, and they were leaving, so we were walking with them, to the parking lot out past the office. And I was looking up at the stars, and it looked like a triangle shape. And I just, I didn't really think anything of it, just thinking it was the stars. And all of a sudden, they all moved together and kept that triangle shape. And I was like, oh my God, did I just see what I thought I saw? And, it was crazy. Like, it's, you want to believe in it, right? Like it's that, too many people, I think, have seen too many things in order for this to not be real.
Some sort of bizarre coincidence. Yeah.
So, what do your families think about y'all being involved in the paranormal? Who wants to go first?
My family, I think, I mean, I'm definitely the only one in my family. I do have some aunts, or cousins or whatever that I think it's kind of neat, but I'm definitely the only one in my immediate family who does this. And I think it's cool. My one sister's kind of scared by it, but I'm sure they think we're a little bit weird or odd to be doing all this stuff, but
my kids, they love it. They're always, my oldest one is 21 almost, and she wants to come out with us on investigations. And I think the only one that's weirded out by it maybe is my father, because he is the all-time heavyweight skeptic, and so I think he had to put up with my mother for many, many years with all the stuff she would do. So he would just go and read his Hockey Digest or something.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he's still like that.
Yeah, my son as well. He's always been into it. He does get he's 18, but he did actually see a mist in our hallway here, and that freaked him out. And he's like, I don't want to sleep, in my room alone. And but he definitely is into it. My daughter, she's the one who experiences most of the kind of activity. Not so much now. I think as she's gotten older, like she's kind of, what do they say? Like, younger kids are more open to it. They can see things, but as you get older, you kind of close off your mind. And I think that's kind of happening with her. But so I think it does more so scare her than anything. When things have happened. So I think that's why she's kind of shut herself off from seeing things. But
I think there is some low level kind of activity, whether it's residual or intelligent, in this house.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard a female voice in here like several times, and I thought it was Joanna, and we're just be like a couple of feet away from me, and but she'd be like upstairs at the far end of the house. And it's happened quite a few times. And then there's the mist that Joanna's son had seen. So there's been a few odd things, but it's not very prevalent, but it does happen.
Yeah, we had a reader come in. We had an event in here, and she said that she senses like kind of an older man kind of roaming the hallway, and I have cats, and not that he doesn't like the cats, but he's not fond of them. He thinks the old school cat should be outside. But definitely I've had footsteps in the house, and I myself have heard a female voice. I thought my daughter was calling me, and I called up, and she's like, no, I didn't say anything, and vice versa. My daughter thought I was calling her. So just, and actually Calvin saw a dark shadow just, I think, a few weeks ago, go past in our bedroom. So just definitely some weird things going on. But yeah, I think our family definitely thinks we're a little odd, to say the least.
Yeah, I would say that. Well, you know what? I'd rather be a little weird than be a little bit normal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think they do think it's cool,
Yeah.
And a lot of them actually have said, "Oh, that'd be really cool, love to come out and stuff." But not for everybody.
I always think it's cool when you have friends or family or coworkers, and they come up to you and they start asking you questions or telling you about experience that they've had.
Oh yeah, I have lots of people. When I tell them about, like, I'm a paranormal investigator, like, oh, that's so cool. Like, oh, have you been to this place, or I've heard about this place, or I've experienced this, and it is neat, right? It's so many people have experiences.
The one thing I actually had to for a while there ask my ex-wife to stop telling people, like if we're at a dinner party or something, or if we were at some sort of big social gathering, to stop telling people that I was a paranormal investigator, because I would get surrounded and out would come the phones and hey, look at this orb I caught, and sometimes it's a bit of a bubble burst when you tell somebody, well, it's probably dust or lens flare, something like that, right? And but it's always fun when people find out that you're a paranormal investigator, because they always have so many questions, and the stories are endless, and it's always something different and something new.
Right. Yeah. There was a time when I never really kept it a secret, but I didn't broadcast it either. But of
Mhm.
course, now I'm at the point where I pretty much tell everybody, because keeping quiet, you're not going to hear those stories,
That's right.
And so, like, I recently started a new job. I've only been there 3 months, and within those 3 months, I right away, I was one of the first things I talked about was what I do, in the podcast. And,
Mhm.
two of my coworkers came up to me right away and they started telling me their stories, and
Yeah.
one of them's actually been on the show, and I've got another one. Her friend going to come on the show too. So I just for me, I'm not going to keep it a secret anymore, and
Mhm.
I'm going to broadcast it as much as I can. And I just
Absolutely.
like I just love making connections and making having giving someone a platform to tell their story.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, my coworker who came on the show, he actually died twice, two different times, and so he talks about
My cat's trying to get into my door. Sorry.
Oh yeah, you get
Two near-death experiences.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, see, when I tell him near death, he goes, "No, they weren't near death." He goes, "I was dead. I was on the other side."
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. That's what he tells me. He's a good guy. He was on one. He was recently on one of the shows. And,
That's amazing.
yeah, he has some pretty good story. And when I thought, I said, "Man, come on the show." He's like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it." So and the same thing with the Bigfoot thing.
Mhm.
Um, when I got my decal made for my truck, my Bigfoot sticker, and I went to go pick it up from the guy. I found him actually in my neighborhood. When I went to go pick it up, he was like, "Hey, what's the deal with this with this decal?" I told him, I said, "I researched Bigfoot." And it was way before I had the podcast. And he's like, "Yeah, my family is from Navasota, which is a little bit north of Houston, maybe 2 hours north of Houston." And when he said that, I already knew what he was going to tell me because that's a hot spot. And he told me
Yeah.
that his grandmother would tell them when they were little that when she would bathe the kids, like his uncles, when they were kids, that they had one that would come up to the window and look in at the window when she'd bathe the kids. And then he told me a story about his uncles told him when they were 12, 11 years old, walking on the railroad tracks. They had that white rock, and one stood up, and it was white, and they didn't even see it. They were maybe like 40, 50 feet from it, and he just stood up and walked into the woods.
Oh boy.
And that's like I say, I would have never known about that story if I didn't put myself out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to me, you got to talk about it a little bit.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
and if anything, you make some good friends, and some of the best friends I have
Mhm.
are from this field.
Yeah.
And some people have connections to get you into, other places or even
Right.
investigate into their house,
Right.
or, I have a friend who has activity, like,
You know,
talking to people and networking is how you
yeah,
get into
yeah.
different
I'm,
places.
I met a guy who had an encounter, and something I always try to do, especially here in Texas. If I talk to somebody on the phone, man, I try to go meet them. I really do try to go meet them and talk to them and see them face to face, just so that they'll have validation that I care.
Mhm.
And by doing that, there was a gentleman outside of San Antonio, which is I don't know, maybe 200 miles from Houston. Um, I went over there, and there's a place called Canyon Lake, and by meeting him, I now have access to the land that he had his Bigfoot encounter on. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Wow.
and that's private land. So
Hmm.
Mhm.
nobody's going to own that land unless you got
Hmm.
permission. So I've got permission to go there. So yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, you make connections. And,
Mhm.
um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I think that's pretty much how we've operated. I mean, all the people in our core group were people that came to we hold monthly events or bi-monthly events when we can lunch and then walks through cemeteries, and then people come to that, and the ones that come more frequently become our core members, and then they become like your family, and then they know people, and it's like this circle that's ever widening with different accesses to different places and different stories to hear. So it's been quite remarkable. I'm sure it would make a great book one of these years.
yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm actually writing a book myself. Uh,
Yes.
it's a fiction book based on a character. Anyway, I won't go into detail about that. But yeah, so but it's based on encounters, you know, but with a little fictional spin to it,
Hmm.
encounters that I've heard and stuff like that. I think it'll be a pretty good book, pretty decent
That's
book.
awesome.
Yeah. So like, what are your goals in this field, Calvin? What are you trying to do?
I think the goal is just, I mean, I don't want to try to prove or disprove if something is a ghost or I don't know exactly. I think it's just because I don't know if what we hear or see is spiritual or if it's some sort of interdimensional crossplay.
Okay.
I guess just clarity on what it is.
Right.
And just to give myself a little peace of mind, and also just what if it is spiritual, what is it like on the other side? I mean, that's I mean, some people say they're not frightened by death or whatever, but I've always been very frank about the fact that death absolutely terrifies me. I've had lucid dreams where I thought I was dead, and I would wake up in a hot flash.
Really?
So people, they either have lucid dreams or near death experiences, and it's very beautiful, and they describe the these meadows of flowers and loved ones coming to greet them and whatnot, and they wake up and feel very enlightened. I don't know, I've never I guess maybe because I just want to stay alive forever. Who knows?
Where does that come from?
I'm not sure exactly. I mean, there's a lot of things I'm terrified of, but yeah, death is just one of them. It absolutely the very notion of it. Like, I mean, when I die, I hope it is just in my sleep without me knowing it. And I wake up on the other side and it's like, okay, now I'm dead. Okay, well, there's not much I can do then. But having it sort of dangled at me through dreams or whatever, that absolutely just gives me the worst feelings I've ever felt. So I want to know what's on the other side of that door and how much freedom you have. One of the other things that, like when you hear about haunted objects and or spatially bound spirits where they can only stay in a house or in a certain area, what kind of limitations you have. So all these kind of little series of questions. So my goal would be find out what it is and what is it like there and how much freedom do I have. So I'd hate to be stuck inside some old lamp, for
There you go.
yeah.
What about you, Joanna? What do you have any goals or that you're trying to accomplish?
My goal is more for myself, not to capture evidence and go out and prove it to anybody else. You're always going to get the people who don't believe or, think we're crazy. It's for me to see and feel if it's real. I mean, I do believe, but, to capture actual evidence, I think is amazing. And I do it for myself. And, when our group does capture evidence, we do share it. Yeah, that's just my goal is to prove it for myself. I want to know it's real. I want to see it with my own eyes. I want to feel it. I'm not going to, someone else has their experiences, yeah, I'll believe it, but I want to see it with my own eyes. And, I've had so many experiences. I've had someone very close to me, pass away from a massive heart attack. And every year around his death, about a month before, dimes appear in my house, and dimes are a symbol from a loved one. And they're just in places that you wouldn't expect. My like inside of the washing machine, or like I think people have change. Like I don't carry change around anymore. Everything's like your credit card or debit, but places on the floor, like they get stuck to your feet when you're walking. Like just places like on the sidewalk. Like I know it sounds crazy, but it's like for 11 months out of the year, you don't see anything. All of a sudden, a month before this person's death, these dimes are appearing everywhere, so that to me is like a validation that there is something out there. And, we're not alone. There is something after this life that we know. So that's my goal, just to prove it to myself that there is more than what we can see and hear.
Cool, yeah. I like that. And Calvin, tell everybody one more time where they can find you guys.
So we are on Facebook. We do have a website, but right now it is being reworked. The website in its original incarnation was my 1990s HTML skills at work, which just absolutely did not look like something that should be sitting in 2020. So I took it down, and we're trying to rework it so it looks a little more modern. But that's coldspotters.com. But we are at, if you look for us on Facebook, you will find us at the Coldspotters Vancouver Original Paranormal Group.
Cool. And you also have a YouTube channel?
Yes, we have a YouTube channel by the same name, the Original Vancouver Coldspotters. And on there, you'll find what I try to avoid is because I never wanted the appearance that because I mean every group is going to handle their I guess out their media differently, and some groups they want the sort of reality show kind of angle on their YouTube channel. That was something that never interested me because I don't think there's anything more boring than showing a 2-hour long spirit box session on YouTube. And so what I try to keep on our YouTube channel is just kind of more of the fun clips. We do like I say, a lot of road trips, and we found this Sasquatch Museum in Washington State.
Okay.
Just we were driving by and saw it, so we popped in, and it was this guy's kind of garage that he had built this, and he does Sasquatch tours, and it was fantastic. And we got out and we did some filming and kind of talked to the guy. So just kind of fun stuff like that goes on the YouTube channel, and then some evidence. And I've got a couple of top 5 kind of lists, top 5 places to investigate. and so it's hopefully some easy viewing if anyone wants to visit there. Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I appreciate you guys coming on tonight. Like I said, I know it took a little bit of time, but we got it squared away, man. So that's all that matters. And you guys did a great job. And I don't know if you're members of my page of Beyond the Woodline fan page. If you are, man, feel free to share with everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Share anything you want to share on there.
Perfect.
You guys are welcome to do that.
Absolutely.
I'd love it if you do, really. So
yeah, and we'll have to do this again sometime and get some evidence to share for the listeners.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially EVPs, man. I love EVPs so much.
Oh yeah, they're the best. Yeah.
They're really hard to kind of debunk.
Exactly.
But cool, man. All right, guys. We're gonna end the show here. You guys hold on real quick, and thanks everyone in the chat room for participating. I appreciate that very much. And we will see you tomorrow night. I do have a show tomorrow night. Let's see my calendar here. Yeah, I got a show tomorrow night. So, yep. I'll see you guys tomorrow night, and thank you again. And good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, Joe. Good night, everyone.